It was likely in a quaint little field that you find yourself in, just like this one, where the inspiration first came to me. Maybe it was on the first version I played, 1.2.5. Maybe it was on the Xbox 360. And maybe just like the Xbox 360, before me was a small starting chest, just like the one you find before you. What you find before you is a quaint little museum, just as quaint as the field and just as quaint as the village. A museum dedicated to that inspiration and all the things that came from it. A museum dedicated to the 10 years that have passed for my channel. My name is Gus the Goose, but it wasn't always that way. I'll be your guide for this self-guided tour. There was a time where my name was EpicB787, and there was a time at the ripe old age of 11 years old that I decided to make my first video. That brings us on to the first video, and a trend you'll find with all of my earlier videos is that they were very heavily inspired by the YouTubers at the time. I would see what other people that I liked were doing and say, I want to do that too. In this case, Exploding TNT was the YouTuber in question, and his If series, What If This, What If That, was in Minecraft. The first video subject was if emeralds could be crafted into tools, and showed a bunch of people harassing villagers with tools crafted from the emeralds that they traded with them. This one was unique from the other Minecraft videos in that it was made exclusively in Microsoft Paint. At the time, I had finally constructed a Minecraft skin for myself using the Steve one as a basis, and this would be the basis for the character that I would portray myself with on the internet. This would be me, as it were, with the brown shirt and the brown hair and the blue pants and the black shoes and the belt and all that. As such, this would also be the basis for my caricature in my intro, which originally looked like this as an obvious spoof of the Steamboat Willie shot from Mickey Mouse. Not much is found from this original video because as years went by, unfortunately, the embarrassment from these early videos because of how young and silly I was caused me to unlist them and in this one exclusive case, delete it completely. As such, that first video is now considered lost media. Lots of these videos are unlisted because if you have a video out, no matter how young and silly you were, the YouTube algorithm treats it as something that you are confident in. As such, moving on to the next video, this one wasn't deleted but remains unlisted. This would be the first video to use Minimator, making an end to the one video long Microsoft Paint era, showing villagers, tired of being harassed and bullied by everybody, a common trend in my early videos, decide to take revenge by taking over Minecraft using Notch's computer. The character of Notch, based on, of course, Minecraft's creator, would be a common appearance in my earlier videos. Again, something from Exploding TNT inspiration. Switching to Minimator was revolutionary, in my eyes, and did teach me the basics of keyframes and all those animation terms. I never was and never will be an animator, but often I had to learn this stuff just by doing, and looking back I'm shocked at how ambitious I was with shots and composition, even if the whole thing was basic, silly, and a little goofy. Exploding TNT had at the time released a video about babies taking over Minecraft and causing havoc. As such, they were a common gag in my videos too, purely because I had found the assets, and this was a common trend in these early days. I would reuse assets because I was lazy or I just didn't know how to get any more. 10 years off, it's clear these were ridiculous, kind of odd, extremely awkward, and hard to watch now. But when I was 11 years old, having made them, I thought these were the coolest things I ever could have possibly made. As such, I continued with Minimator into the next video, which involved gold and command blocks switching places. It was quite common at the time to make fun of other Minecraft YouTubers and their known trends. Given that gold was involved in this video, the YouTuber SkyDoesMinecraft, known for his portrayal of gold, was shown a lot. Gold and command blocks seemed arbitrary, but it was a combination of switching places that Exploding TNT hadn't done at the time, and this one, sentient blocks are shown in Conspiracy. A common gag is against red sand, where it's called the most useless block. It seems bizarre now to live in a time where Microsoft Paint can actually create transparent PNGs, but its inability to do so was a huge roadblock for a lot of my videos and personal projects with Minecraft. Eventually, I found a program called Iconcraft, which allowed me to make some bespoke custom sprites for some of these gags. For instance, the command block ore that you see in the foreground of this shot. The Minimator era was very important for me, and in a lot of ways I miss it. It was an extremely fun and educational way to make little animations. It taught me a lot about video making, and it was just a fun and unique pipeline altogether, allowing me to use the actual game to make sets. But, despite only that many videos, that was the end of that era. It was time to move on to the next one. The folder in which all of my following projects would be in was called Frame by Frame. That's a little bit of an exaggeration because it makes it sound like a Disney animator. In fact, the gaps between frames would be measured in seconds, not milliseconds. The first target of these ideas was a game that was trending at the time, and I found interesting, though I would come to understand not nearly as much as other people did. That would be Five Nights at Freddy's. The main inspiration this time, as before, came from another YouTuber. What if FNAF wasn't scary was the videos, and a lot of common gags are shared between them, including an obsession with pizza on part of the characters. Despite the amount of Five Nights at Freddy's stuff that would come out of my channel, I actually wasn't particularly interested in horror, let alone its horror. I mainly liked poking fun of it. Despite the fact that I did respect the game and enjoyed hearing about it, I wasn't quite as interested as all those around me were. That's the reason all my videos would be spoof-based. Moving on then to the first video we have that isn't a spoof or reference to anything. It was actually a school project where I had to talk about the dangers of running out of oil. It was, as you'd expect, being a school project by someone that young, extremely narrow-minded, tunnel-visioned, and simple, but I was fully aware of this at the time. It was just made mostly for fun, and the somber ending in which everybody runs out of oil was extremely exaggerated. The whole thing was an Ebenezer Scrooge type story, in which at the end it was revealed that this very rich man, named Big Man in some kind of pun way, was actually dreaming and decides to take a second chance and gives up on his whole business by throwing his computer out a window. To give it some props, it did have the first gag in all of these that genuinely made me laugh looking back, and watching paint dry is very boring. And if you're wondering, I got an A on the project because I was the only one who did a video quite like this. Following this, we'd have something that would establish a major trend in my channel, a particular character, the Tree Rat, who'd soon be followed by its brother, a small character based on a plush I've had since I was a kid, and done with the voice that I did for it as a kid. Given that there's two of them, I made two of them. In its introduction, it was found up a tree and decided to be kept as a pet, and would be used many times throughout the videos. More on that later. You guessed it, it's that time of the day, another YouTuber inspiration to follow the rest of my videos. Going into the center of 2015, it was SMG4 and his Mario 64 videos. But not just him, it was also the others who gave him inspiration, Starman 3, Mario 54321, all the people quite like that. Of course, I didn't understand how to use Mario 64 animation at the time, so I was forced to use another frame-by-frame style, which used the program Iconcraft that I'd mentioned earlier in the Minecraft segment. This video portrayed Mario having some simple yard work and chores to do at the yards of Peach's castle, and finding the worst way to do each one. Like a lot of my videos at the time, it'd be a series of gags strung together by some kind of title card, in this case, his list of chores that he would cross off in increasingly comedic ways, for increasingly comedic tasks done in increasingly comedic, worse ways, such as cleaning out the furnace by freezing it, and mowing the lawn by burning the entire thing down, and feeding the chain shop by eating all the food for himself, and the implication is he got mauled off screen. It ultimately gets hard to talk about these old videos because I'm trying to talk essentially analytically about videos made by an 11, 12, or 13-year-old in some kind of retrospective and nostalgic way. In fact, I find this quite difficult, but funny in a way. Eventually, I would try to make videos actually in Mario 64, but I only managed to release a few shorts. Just like all those Mario 64 YouTubers at the time, my version of the character would simply be the Mario model with the colors swapped. I actually planned a longer video and got a ways into editing it, but it never saw the light of day because I couldn't really figure out how to do all the gags that I wanted. This would be a common reason why many of my videos never saw the light of day. 2016 had crept around, and I'd found that I was less embarrassed with my voice if I'd simply done the tree rat voice, entering these little gremlins that have been my co-hosts ever since. But in this case, they were the hosts of their own show. They were quite proud of this. Being 2016, a new YouTuber inspiration was probably needed. In this case, the much crasser than my previous inspirations, grade A under A. Naturally, my version was a lot less crass, given that it featured small, plush tree rats talking. But the primary thing was the two of them talking in front of a set, the larger of which was completely silent, that being the older of the brothers. The Tree Rat Show had quite a lot of entries. Some were done with the actual plushes and various gags using stop motion on my 3DS, a feature that it had. Others simply had pictures of them in front of their small tree set, talking as if they're on some very bad talk show about YouTube notifications or Minecraft YouTubers or anything at all. In one, they flip a bottle. That was trendy at the time, I swear. The stop motion ones are particular favorites because I still find them a little fun. When the tree rats were actually talking, the voice was done through a low quality headset mic where I was simply trying to make my voice as high as possible. It was pretty shrill and hard to listen to. There was no dialogue in the stop motion ones since they were done with my 3DS's stop motion feature, which was a lot of fun. It also introduced the running gag of Teleport Bear, who you see there in the top right corner of the table. He simply teleported in and out of the background of shots in multiple videos. The Tree Rat Show was a lot of fun to make, even if it was a little all over the place. Moving on, there was a series of videos which featured another YouTuber. Given that the relationship didn't end on the best of terms, that's to be kept private. But the main thing there was it was the first time that the tree rats were shown in the same room as myself, which would be a trend going on later. 2016 had drawn to a close, and 2017 was creeping around the corner. This was a year that would see a major paradigm shift in my channel that continues to this day. I decided to make a video using video game clips, starting with Team Fortress 2. It would be Girardi in September, a video montage featuring a certain item in Team Fortress 2 to the tune of September. There were a lot of these, but Girardi in September was the longest one. There were some featuring a pickaxe and the frying pan and the axe extinguisher and all sorts of things. This would begin the shift towards short, fun gameplay clips on my channel. Girardi in September was also the last video to use the Epic B787 name and classic intro. I would move on to a new name, which was inspired by a real goose I met in real life. I would become Gus the Goose, and so I am to this day. The short comedic gameplay clip montage was quite fun to make and simple to make, so I decided I'd make a few more. Next time around I decided to use live audio, something that I believe I'd never done on my channel before. It would be me playing a game. I wouldn't use the entire clip because everything I make is extremely edited. And I'd return to Minecraft for the first time in a while, and what I believe would be the first time long extended Minecraft gameplay footage was used on my primarily Minecraft origin channel. It would be a survival game video with a running gag being a poorly done Scottish accent and bread, complaining that bread was the only item I received at the beginning of this Hunger Games minigame game, while other people received strong items like Superman. Given the low monotone, long silences, and general lack of sharp, punchy humor, it was pretty clear that solo live commentary over gameplay wasn't exactly my strong suit. So, for later videos in this style, which would all be Team Fortress 2, it was decided that I would use, instead, friends, which a group was starting to form of them in a Team Fortress 2 server I frequented all the time. Ironically, it was actually a Minecraft-themed Team Fortress 2 trade server. Eventually, we decided to play Gary's mod together, Trouble in Terrace Town, which brings us to the Trouble in Terrace Town collection, or the TTT collection. The first major of which was on a map, TTT Waterworld, which needs no introduction. I decided to record myself talking, but I didn't say a whole lot because everyone else around me was simply saying funnier things, just purely happenstance. I hadn't told them they were being recorded. Here you see a small recreation of that map, except it doesn't have a roof or walls, for permanent reasons. In this video, we were in a water park, and I decided to start using purposefully absurd video titles. In this case, it was Sitcom Star Plots to Murder Me in a Water Park. This was a stretch that came from the fact that we gave a sitcom intro to the guy who killed me on a slide in this water park-based map, but it proved to be a fun way to make video titles. It was how the previous Minecraft title was decided, Fake Scottish Idiot Complains About Bread. Among friends, this video was quite the hit. Even though it was extremely short, the little subtitles and gags and edits and audio clips and all those things had them laughing out loud, as opposed to just uploading the whole long gameplay clip with all the pauses and stuff. I decided to cut out the fluff, and the video was only a few moments long. In 2018, which had now rolled around, we played again, and this time I recorded for much longer because I knew what I had. It was the Towers, Toilets, and Turmoil trilogy, which was a lot of fun. There was so much footage I was able to make 3 of them. Although it was purely for a gag, as it always was, this began the trend of me using editing to imply some kind of story to gameplay footage which originally didn't have it at all. In this case, as a way of segueing between clips and credit tags and things like that, it was implied that the Neo Combine, who looked just like the normal Combine, the villains from Half-Life 2, who happened to be assets in Gary's mod, were chasing us around, and that's why we were hiding on this tower, killing each other. There was no real reason for this except just for a fun way to string together all these videos. For myself and among friends, these remain favorites. There were 3 of them released at the time, all recorded and released in 2018. There was an extra one that would be found in 2020, but due to hard drive issues, many hours of TTT footage would be lost that never saw the light of day, unfortunately, from that year. It's a shame because I recall them being quite good. Unfortunately, this is an issue that commonly plagued my productions. A similar video was done, simply with my best friend Dungeon Power, who had been in the TTT videos, but hadn't been truly featured until a miniature man climbed some stairs. This video showed me, being miniature, trying to climb some stairs in the same server as Dungeon and one of his friends, Entity, while they caused havoc for each other and for me with their own strange hide-and-seek games. All the while, throughout all of 2018, I was continuing to release short TF2 clips without any dialogue, just as before. It was a great way to get more content out. But going into 2018, there were some extra videos that did gain me some popularity, but have since been unlisted due to some age. These involve ranting about some new upcoming genre of YouTubers. Throughout all this, animation was on the mind, and I decided I wanted to get back to it. This would become the Sewer Reviewer, which was announced in late 2018. The Tree Rats would return in their original roles, but this time as my co-hosts on a review show, where I would live in a sewer reviewing games, hence the Sewer Reviewer. Here in front of you, you see a nice little recreation of that sewer, which I created in Hammer, the map-making tool for Half-Life 2 and subsequently Gary's mod. The first episode, which was talking about cables and video games, was released in 2019. This series is still going on, though the releases are slow because it's actually quite difficult for me to make. The Sewer Reviewer had a few landmarks, including the first use of originally composed music on my little synthesizer, and the last appearance of the original Tree Rat design before I changed them to my own slightly different one because they were still, essentially, old Sanrio plushes, the Hello Kitty people, and I didn't want to just straight up use their design, so I gave them a pudgier, more natural raccoon-like look. With 2020 came a Christmas episode about Windows XP, and introduced the building above the sewer, this being Sam's used game store, the character of Sam being the employer who as of yet hasn't said anything. He allows me, Gus, whatever, to live underneath the building in the sewer, in return for a secret identity and minimal pay. That 2020 video also featured, at the time, the longest non-video essay portion of this hybrid video essay animation type story regarding the Tree Rats and me, Gus, whatever, trying to find the resources to acquire Windows XP to install on the computer. It seems then the theme is kind of obvious. Even my video essay series has a story. Even my gameplay clips have a short gag story. So I decided to take that concept one further and get an extremely mundane gameplay montage and make a story out of that. Enter the Team Fortress 2 quests, starting with the Summer Cooler quest. These cooler items, as I mentioned, are Team Fortress 2 items that are rare but have no value, so they'd be easy for me to acquire. I'd go to various servers asking to trade for them, and in editing, edit everything together to make it seem like some grand journey. What you see here is the apartment from that video. The crux of this concept regarded around narration after the fact, which was used to justify all of the story-based elements that were coming out of this rather mundane gameplay of me going to trade servers and asking people if they had a certain item. To create more of a story, other activities unrelated to the trading were recorded and put in between as legs of the journey, as it were. This video was plagued by technical issues. Most was recorded with OBS, which for some reason caused all these glitches and stutters you see in the video. When the gameplay was actually recorded, it was at high frame rate, but the video came out at low frame rate, and many things were simple, short frames, causing entire videos to be completely lost. Most of the journey then had to be cut because there simply wasn't any footage of it. Certain parts had to go back and be re-recorded, such as the gag where Donjon Power and I are sent back to space. This was recorded after the fact using Windows Capture, which is my primary method. As such, this was easy because this was a scripted event, but all the live gameplay stuff was simply lost. This video was quite a lot of fun, though it ended up being 30 minutes, even with all the technical plaguings. And it can be shown in the final video how low quality all the footage is. Despite being recorded in 1080p, a lot of it came out in 480p type quality in a 1080p video. Nerdy, boring stuff. The point is it looked pretty bad, and I didn't want to make this mistake for the follow-up, a Christmas winter-themed one to go after the summer one. This will be released on 12/25/2019, and these were the main video releases of 2019. The Christmas one had pretty much the same concept, but with Christmas-themed items. And this one ended up being the new longest video on the channel at 45 minutes, beating the previous 30 minutes from the summer one. Here you see the office from the intro in Snowy Coast. I don't need to tell you that 2020 was a turbulent year for everybody, but for me it was relatively straightforward. This was the year that I'd found some extra TTT footage from 2018 as mentioned earlier, which became TTT4 The Wrath of Bombs. It's also the year that I released my Windows XP Christmas video, and things were looking good. Until they weren't. It turns out, little did I know, that that 2020 Christmas video would be my last release for quite a while. "2021 and 2022 saw no releases. This happened for a variety of reasons. I started a lot of projects but didn't have the time, the motivation, or the resources to finish them. I changed computers, hardware, and software a few times, which made it almost impossible to continue my projects where they were. And, like I said, most of it was just motivation. All my ideas just couldn't carry through, and I couldn't find the energy to make them do so. I didn't want it to be this way, but for those 2 long years all I had were updates confirming I wasn't dead. 2023 seemed like it'd be going the same way. Until I decided that it wouldn't. One day I found the time in the summer and decided to put it all in gear and release 3 videos. The first of which, and the most important of which, was The Stone Digger. I had gone back to Minecraft once again to find that motivation that made me want to make this YouTube channel in the first place. I'd also made a 2023 video called Miniverse in the Sewer Reviewer as mentioned, as well as another short TF2 clip. I'd essentially tried to get the best from all my eras and find the motivation through that. The Stone Digger was made in a similar fashion to the Winter Crate quest and the Summer Cooler quest. It was relatively mundane gameplay footage given a story through narration. But in this case, it was a much less social story regarding a lonely settler pilgrim and his religion that burns birch wood, going out into the wilderness and making a new home, trying to make a name for himself and prove that he wasn't obsolete. It seems then, ever since I played this game for the first time in version 1.2.5, I always seem to come back to it as a source of inspiration or just fun. That inspiration, even if I stop playing the game and my channel stops being about it in certain times, just seems to continue. It always seems to come back to me. It all started with that silly little emerald. 10 years to the day from the creation of the channel leads us to now. 10 years ago, I created a YouTube channel, like many of my peers. I never wanted to stop, and I still do not. I was 11 years old then, and now I hope to keep making what I love when I wish to. It was always a hobby I was proud of, and despite having just over 500 subscribers logged, each one still feels like a triumph, and it still would if I had 0 subscribers. And so it all began with Microsoft Paint and an Emerald. It wasn't because I could, it's just because I wanted to. If you've enjoyed this museum and this audio tour, please give us a good review online. Just leave your audio guide disc at the front right when you found it. Thank you very much for coming along. You'll find a minecart back to the starting lobby outside this door directly ahead. It was likely in a quaint little field that you find yourself in, just like this one, where the inspiration first came to me. Maybe it was on the first verse.